Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I have a really special guest for you today. You might know her from her travel shows on Travel XP, on Prime Video, on Discovery, from her YouTube channel, from her Instagram. She is one of the top travel content creators on this planet, hands down. Okay. I've known her for about 10 years. We shot travel shows for Travel XP together, and I actually never met her in person up until about a week ago. Her and her fiance ended up coming into Toronto for a wedding, and we had lunch. I got to say, amazing travel content creator, even better human being. This podcast, we recorded this podcast about a month ago. The one thing I'm really upset about is the quality that it exported at. I'm not sure what happened, but the video ended up exporting in really poor quality. So the video quality is very poor. The conversation, though, is incredible. We got really deep into how she started this whole travel thing, into how she's grown, into what somebody has to do to get where she is today. And some of her favorite experiences traveling, some of her least favorite experiences traveling. We really dug deep. So without further ado, my guest today, the one and only Alex Outhwaite. Okay, Alex. First of all, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Just for everybody who doesn't know, I've known Alex for a really long time. Kind of randomly, we've never actually met in person, but we work for the same.
We've never even spoken on Zoom before. This is the
We've never
first.
even spoken on Zoom before. Yeah, we've talked to each other on the phone. We've texted each other, WhatsApp, whatever, Instagram, but never actually talked on the phone or met in person. And we've worked for the same company actually. When did you start working for Travel XP?
I think my first show was like 2013, 2014. It was maybe 6 months before yours, I think. Maybe something like that.
No, mine was 2015. Where was your first show?
Okay. It was in India.
It was in
Um,
India, huh? Where was
yeah.
it?
So the first show was called Quest, and I don't know where they found you, but they found me on a casting website called Star Now. Was that the same with you?
No. So it's so funny. So I had so I don't know if I told people this, but so I did a postgraduate degree in broadcast journalism, and I would do these like random like videos around Toronto. So
Okay.
I would go to these like new restaurants, new openings. We have a lot of festivals in Toronto, so I was just shooting random stuff around Toronto, and then they basically saw my demo reel and ended up just like contacting me. And at first I thought it was a joke. I was
So
like,
did I. I did as well.
how did they contact you?
Well, I mean, when people say, oh, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. So I'd seen this advert on this casting website. So I had kind of my modeling photos up there and like my show reel and demo reel, like you said. And I saw this advert they wanted like a travel host who was able to cook. And I always say, like, I'm not a chef, but I can cook, like, I enjoy cooking. So I thought I'd apply for it. And then I got a message within 24 hours asking when I'd be able to come out to India. And all of my friends were like, you know, is this some kind of human trafficking? Like, it definitely
That's
seems too good to be true.
so yours
Um,
is okay. Yours is a bit different because it's funny you say that. Mine was in Canada. So I was already in Canada and I wasn't as worried about it, I guess, because it was in Canada and it was starting off in Vancouver. So starting off on the West Coast, I was like a little bit more I was a little bit more lenient towards like being like, okay, I'll take this chance. But I'm telling you, even on the plane there, after they paid for the flights, I was like, there's 0% chance this is actually true.
I know what you
Um,
mean. I know what you
uh,
mean.
okay, so let's get into it a little bit. Where did you get started? How did you get started with this whole process? Where'd you go to school? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey.
That's a lot of different questions in
I
one.
know, I know. So start from like, did you go to school to, did you know that you wanted to be like a travel presenter, professional, or kind of did this fall into your lap?
I did want to be a journalist when I was younger, but I think more I kind of envisioned myself as like print journalism. And then I remember my parents saying to me, "Oh, if you want to be a journalist, just go and work for like a local paper or whatever." But I actually wanted to go to university. I wanted to get a degree and do the university experience. So I studied in Manchester and I actually studied marketing. So not really
Mhm.
anything to do with travel or broadcasting. But then I suppose like now we have no option but to market ourselves on social media. So I guess it does somewhat help that I did that.
Hmm.
Um,
But hold on, but wait, but what was your first, like I just mentioned, I was just doing random videos around Toronto. So what were you doing in that sense? Were you acting more or like what were you doing before you got into the travel stuff?
more modeling, I guess. Like if you Google me, there's like endless photos of me in like wedding dresses and stuff. I used to do loads of the bridal shows and things like that. Like catalog and TV adverts. So it's all kind of sofa adverts and stuff, all very girl next door. And then on the presenting side, like I'd done a couple of kind of low key TV shows, but it was like local channels. So I did this show called The Weekender, which was about like music and nightlife around Leeds, which is a city near Manchester, if you guys don't know.
Mhm.
But all just really small scale stuff. So yeah, the travel show was just like the first big international show that I'd done. But I think they were more keen on me from the cooking side because I remember the director Kamakea, who we've both worked with, kind of saying, "Oh, when we've hired models before, he was like, they don't even know that they have to stir the pot." So he was pleased that I at least knew that if you're cooking, you have to stir, which is, I mean, that's a very low mark to work from. So it was fine.
That's so because you know it's funny. I've seen all of those shows and they still run the same shows from 2013, like 2013, 2014 right now. So do you, first of all, do you watch yourself ever?
Never. It just makes me cringe. Do you? I feel like you'd watch
No,
your own
no, oh my
show.
God, Alex. I will have people send me my shows or like, or be like, listen, you're on right now. Or a lot of the times it's usually it usually happens when people are traveling that they'll see me like on a random TV. So
Yeah,
I'm on,
yeah. I get the same. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm on we are on all of the WestJet flights. So
I
WestJet is
didn't
a
know
like
that.
is a Toronto airline, and I didn't know that either. And I only found that out when like I had maybe five, six people in one summer send me a video of them watching us and actually watching you as well on a WestJet flight. I'm like, man, I wish they told us that we were on like these flights and stuff because most of the stuff we have, I had no idea where it was gonna go.
Did they have
Um,
all the shows? How many shows did they show
no, no,
you?
no. So they only have two or three shows on the flights.
Okay.
Um, but both of us are on those shows. Apparently, we're on every flight, which is pretty ridiculous. Okay, so that was your first experience. You jumped into it. You flew to India, and how was that first experience? I love Kamakai. I think he's one of my favorite people. We both pronounce his name completely different. Speaking of Kamakai, I'm looking at you right now. You've been telling me that I'm coming to India to do a show with you for like a year, and that hasn't happened yet. So what's going on? But back to you, Alex. Back to you. Clearly, he likes you more than me.
We
But
both
how
love
is?
him. He's a good guy.
Oh, he's the best guy. Also, that guy lost like 100 pounds. He's been in the gym. That guy's been in the gym. Okay, but how was that first experience, and did that make you want to do it even more?
Well, I've always traveled, like on the travel side, like even with my parents. I mean, my parents were married for a really long time before they had me, and they just traveled around. It was brilliant. Like really adventurous trips. So I guess I kind of got that spirit from them. And equally, like when I got my first job, what I saved for was travel. Like I learned to scuba dive and like went off to the Red Sea in Egypt diving on like a solo trip at like 16. So I've always had that adventurous side to me. But
At
I mean,
16, you went on a solo trip at 16?
yeah,
Is
but
that
you
even
meet
legal?
people. You're never actually on your own, though, are you?
Not 16. 16 is so young for a solo trip, I think. Alex, you know what? I was gonna tell you this. I've never gone on a solo trip myself, and I think my first one will be this winter to Vietnam. I was asking about it, but I've never been on a solo trip, like without cameras or without like anybody. And I think that that experience is probably one that I need to have. But it's crazy that you were having it at 16. Okay,
But it sounds like a cliche, but like it is liberating to do it on your own. Definitely.
and like you meet people, you stay at hostels. I don't know. I want to do it really badly. Okay, this is a random question that popped up into my head, and this is going to be the first question I asked you, and I will be shocked if you know the answer to this. Like, I'll actually be shocked.
Okay.
How many countries have you been to?
I don't know.
Ah, I told you. There you go. There you go.
I know that it's somewhere between 80 and 90 because somebody made me count a while back, but I haven't checked again since then.
80 and 90 countries.
80 to 90, yeah.
See, don't you hate it when people ask you like what's your favorite place? Because
Just too hard to
it's
do. Too
impossible.
hard
Yeah,
to answer.
so for me, I'm probably at like 50 countries, and if people always ask me what's your favorite place, and I'm like, whoever asked me that, I'm like, you haven't traveled enough. You haven't traveled enough. If somebody asks you what's your favorite place, okay, but if I was to ask you that question, what if I was to say, what are your top three places where you've had, that feeling when you're just like in awe of your surroundings and like are just super happy and like you're by yourself in the moment? What would you, if you could narrow it down to your top three on the spot right now without thinking about it, what would it be?
Okay, well, I have two definite already, and very on brand for me, I suppose. They're both actually at hostels. So one of them was in Colombia. There's a hostel called Casa on Agua, which is just
Let me
out.
go ahead and write that down.
Yeah, write it down. It's out in the middle of the ocean, so you've got to go kind of 2 hours from Cartagena on the Caribbean coast, and it's just all hammocks. There's no rooms or anything. You have to fish for your dinner. And then at nighttime, people get boats over from other little islands, and they have a big party there. And I remember kind of falling asleep in the hammock during the day and waking up with like cool people around me in this amazing place and thinking, okay, this is pretty lucky. Like I'm happy to be here.
What is it
So
called again?
Casa on Agua, house on the water.
Okay, you're saying it too quickly. Can you spell it for everyone? Because I feel like this is really
Casa,
important. Casa,
Casa, like
yeah,
on
Casa,
en
yeah.
agua,
Oh,
H.
literally Casa on Agua. Okay, got it.
Yeah, me
Okay.
and you butchering Spanish here.
Casa on Agua.
Yeah. Do you not understand?
Do you not understand Casa on Agua? Um, okay, all right, that's one.
Okay,
Colombia.
that's one.
That's honestly, that comes out of left field for me. I've never been to Colombia. Oh my God, Alex, side story. We had two bachelor parties in Colombia, two different people, obviously, two different bachelor parties, and both of them were canceled right at the start of COVID. So I was supposed to go to Colombia twice in 2020, I guess, and both were canceled because of COVID. So it's absolutely on my list, and I think we're gonna try to make it happen. But anyways, your next one.
So the other one was staying in Ecuador, and there's I suppose it's like an organic farm where you can go and stay and live there for a while called Rio Muchacho. I'm not going to spell that.
Rio Muchacho?
And like it's really quiet during the day, and then at nighttime, because you're kind of in like a jungly area, and it just suddenly comes alive with all like these animals and insect sounds. And I remember just as I was going to sleep, the whole room was like lit up with fireflies, and it was just the most beautiful thing. Like I don't know if you've seen, you probably have, but I don't know if you've seen fireflies. Like they're just so pretty, like dancing
No,
around the.
no, I can't say I have. I can't say I have. Um, okay, third.
I don't know about number three. Are these
Is
stories
there
making me sound like a dick? I'm like, have you seen fireflies?
no, not at all. What do you mean? Um, what was I gonna ask you? Oh, what about in India? Your favorite place in India, would you say?
I quite often say the northeast. Um, so like the sister states like Meghalaya and Assam, Nagaland. I mean, India obviously is technically one country, but it's so varied and kind of from north to south and then right across to the east, it just has very separate cultures, separate dances, separate food, and the people are different. And I just like the laid back nature of the northeast, like Meghalaya.
Mhm.
Um, it really
Nice.
does feel quite different. Like I feel like if you flew straight into Meghalaya, you wouldn't think you were in India if you didn't know.
Got you. Okay, that's good to know. I want to make my way out to India at some point again. Okay. You seem like you are like the busiest travel person of all time. It seems like obviously that's what you do for work, but it's like you're in a new place every month. Can you kind of walk me through the process of, whether say, I know how it is with Travel XP, but you've obviously been on different networks, you've been on Discovery Channel and Prime Video. How does the whole process work for the people? And do you get a project and then you kind of they plan it out for you and then you fly in, or like how does it work? And can you talk a little bit about the process of how you get your jobs, basically?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on the channel. So Prime Video, which is The Wanderer, and the new episode is coming out, I think, in a few weeks' time.
Yes.
That was actually through my agent. So I have an agent for my presenting work, and she was approached by the production company that said they were looking for, I don't know what the brief was, adventurous individuals who like chatting, which is fairly vague, I suppose. But I
Who
had to
like
send.
chatting?
Yeah. Well, I think like because in The Wanderer, I actually have to go up to people on the street and just engage in conversation with complete strangers, which isn't for everybody. I feel like some people maybe would feel uncomfortable doing that. So I do know what they mean. But they wanted me to record a casting video. So they'd obviously seen my shows, they'd seen my show reel, but they had a couple of questions. I don't think what they were. Oh, they wanted to know about a bad travel experience that I'd had. And they wanted me to
They
talk
just
and
they literally just took the question right out of my mouth, Alex. That was gonna be well further down the line. I don't know how much time you have, but I can talk to you for 5 hours. But anyways, go ahead. Can you tell me about that afterwards, or
yeah,
actually?
well, I'll include it in this story now,
Okay,
shall
go
I?
ahead. Amazing, amazing.
Yeah, so I think they were kind of seeing how I responded to when things go wrong in travel, which they do. Like, you know, you can't lie. Especially if you're on the road a lot, like things do go wrong. And I told a story about another one from Ecuador, actually. I was on a night bus from Guayaquil on the coast going in to stay at this lodge in the Amazon. And I think the driver must have fallen asleep because basically we crashed off the road. Um, I mean, we could have gone off the edge of a cliff, but luckily there was a massive road sign there, and we smashed into the road sign, and all of the windows came out.
Oh my God.
We all obviously had to get off the bus. Luckily, nobody was too injured, but in a very kind of laid back Ecuadorian way, like the bus still worked. So the driver was like, right, everybody back on. And we drove like the next 5 hours with no windows and no windscreen and like flies flying in and everything.
Wait, what was this? What were you shooting here?
I wasn't shooting anything.
Oh,
It
you
was
were
just
just traveling?
a trip. Yeah. I mean, technically, it was a competition because I'm like an old woman. I love entering competitions. um, I
I'm like
do.
an old
Like,
woman.
no, I mean, like when I'm 80, I'm going to be sat there with like the newspaper being like, oh, what can I win this week? Um,
That's
but
so
it was,
funny. So wait, but hold on, hold on. So that's really scary. It was in the middle of the night. This guy crashed the whole bus, and all the windows came off the bus. So the
yeah, and
rest of the
nobody
time, you have
really
to drive with
seemed,
no
yeah,
windows.
yeah. Everyone was very relaxed about it.
Okay. So you told that story, and then they're like, "Yep, you're in." Or how did it happen?
So the next stage of the process, I then had a Zoom call with the director and the creative director. And we just chatted through a few of their ideas. I guess it was just a formality to see, um, whether we're all on the same page, I
Hmm.
guess. And then it was, I think about 3 weeks later, we started shooting the first show. Um, so that was with Prime Video. You know the story with Travel XP, with
Hmm.
Sky and Discovery. I think how I met them. It's another couple of guys that own a production company and own a channel on Sky in the UK. And I think maybe I contacted them actually and sent them my show reel and said, these are the projects that I've been working on. Let me know if you've got something that might be suitable. And then they reached out and I did a show called It's More Fun in the Philippines,
Got it.
which was then
Yeah.
picked up by Discovery. So then Discovery Channel bought that show and it's now
Hmm.
broadcast on Discovery.
I'm always like so fascinated. You tell me about this process sometimes. I'm not nearly as involved in this as you. I kind of wish I was, to be honest. But like, can you get into just quickly, and if you don't want to, you don't have to, but quickly as to how people actually pitch a show to a network? Obviously, you have to have the context, but like, how does that process work? Shopping it around. Does it have to be a finished product before you send it to people, or how does it work?
I mean, this is still something that I'm kind of learning as well, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most people put together what they call a deck, which is
Mm-hmm.
essentially like a few pages of PDF of what the project is, what the idea is, like how you feel it's going to look and the people involved. And you can either send that to production companies with the aim that they might then decide they want to pitch it to channels. But then there's also, I mean, there's commissioning and then acquisition. So I suppose that's hoping that a show would get commissioned, and then the other end of the scale is making something yourself and then trying to sell that to an acquisitions team. So you could get like a distributor who then takes a percentage and they sell it onto the different channels. So there are quite a lot of different avenues, really. I don't think there's one that's right or wrong necessarily.
Isn't it insane as to how much this whole landscape has changed over the last like 10 to 15 years? Like, think about when we started. Like, getting your name out there was so much more difficult than it is right now. So to kind of get into a question I was going to ask you, if you were to give somebody some advice about starting to, get on your path or be a travel, presenter, journalist, what would you say to somebody who's just starting and wants to be like you, who wants to be like Alex? Either Alex,
Like the Alexes.
Like the Alexes, yeah.
I mean, start small. I always say this. I think people worry saying, oh, I haven't visited however many countries. But start in your hometown. I mean, you said you did that, right? Made some like local videos, and obviously for people not living in Toronto, they saw your stuff and thought it was really interesting and informative. And that could be the same, whether you're living in Paris or Mumbai, like make something local. You don't necessarily need to have expensive equipment. My most watched video on YouTube is from El Salvador, and I made it on I don't even think it was a real GoPro. I feel like it was like a fake, action cam.
Yeah.
Anyway, like the quality is not great. The sound is not great, but clearly something resonated with people. Or just using mobile phone. And also, I'd say find your niche, find your USP, because it's such a saturated market now and it is really competitive, whether we like it or not. So try and think, it sounds very cheesy to say, think of yourself as a brand, but think about what you want to be known for, I guess, and try and share content that will resonate with that audience. Does that make sense?
So I was just looking this up. You have like 165,000 subscribers on YouTube. Is that right? Something like that?
Something like
Close
that,
to
yeah.
that. More than 130,000 followers on Instagram. What is the process of you actually getting to those numbers? And honestly, like, I know how much work it is and I see how much work you're putting in, but is there a video that that has hit for you, for example, where you've seen a ton of increase in subscribership or followers, or kind of like if you want to go through how, how your content works and how often you publish and stuff like that as well?
I don't have a publishing schedule. I probably should do, because I feel like people who are consistent with it do better. But because I suppose I've got my fingers in a lot of pies at the moment. So
That sounds so weird. That
is that
sounds
a
so
thing? I was gonna say, is that
we
not,
might have to cut that out.
do you not say that in Canada?
No, we don't. Honestly, the first thing I pictured was like you seeing a pie, just like putting your fingers in and then
What would
another
you
pie.
say? You're juggling a lot of plates or what?
Juggling plates? Is that a thing for you guys too? No, like no, yeah, something along those lines.
All right.
My
Not the
fingers in a
pies
lot of
then.
pies.
Cut the
No,
bit
okay,
about the
okay, no, but
pies.
I get it, I get it, I get it.
Yeah,
You're working on a
anyway,
lot of things.
I don't have a posting schedule, but I probably should do. Although actually this month I've decided to post one clip a day on Instagram.
Yeah.
Just to see how it works. But I mean, I have had certain videos and certain reels that I've done really well, and then I've increased in followers a lot. I had one video from Tamil Nadu, which was just a little clip of me with a lady selling flowers, and it ended up getting about 10 million views or something insane. So I gained quite a lot of followers from that. And equally on YouTube, another one of my videos from El Salvador. I think at one point I was maybe getting 1,000 followers a day, or subscribers a day on YouTube from that video. I mean, it's
What
slowed down now because I'm not posting as often, but
your biggest one here 4 years ago, El Salvador English girl exploring El Salvador and gives honest review, 1.4 million views. And you're just walking through the streets by yourself, Is it a GoPro that you have, or what is
Just on
the?
a GoPro, yeah. I mean, I think you can see the selfie stick at some points.
Yeah, this is amazing. You know what? God, it takes so much work to shoot these videos, to cut them up, to make them sound okay, to bring the sound in. How long does it take you to cut one of those videos?
It depends, really. I mean, that one didn't really take that long because it was just, like we said, literally just walking through on a GoPro. So I just kind of cut out a few little bits. But then some of my others, if I'm trying to make it more cinematic with good music, and like if I'm working for a client, for example, because you were asking about the different types of work that I do.
Hmm.
Sometimes I go on a trip for a destination. Um, like I went to the Falklands with the tourist board there, and they wanted me to make a YouTube video. So obviously, I'm going to take a lot more time getting nice drone shots and selecting good music and doing a voiceover. And yeah, that does take a long time, especially if you're self-taught. I mean, you're the same, right? You've
Of course,
learned
yeah.
how to cut everything yourself. And when I look back on some of my old YouTube videos, and I've just whacked like crazy trance music over the top of it. And I'm thinking, why did I do that? Why did somebody tell me that was not a good idea? So hopefully I've improved since then.
You know what I've noticed too? So, like I said, I'm doing all these podcasts and I'm kind of collecting all this content right now before I start putting it out. And I feel like I'm being a fraud to myself by not putting it out as well, if that makes sense. But I feel like in our society, we have this wild, the way that I put it is the loss of digital memory. So it's like, how you have videos on your phone or videos on your computer that you have, and then you're just like, oh, I'm gonna post this later. I'm gonna post this later sometime soon. And then you just never do. And then it's on your phone for like a year and 2 years. And then you get a new phone and then you delete everything or put it onto a hard drive. I feel
Yeah.
like I feel like when people ask me this too, because I get literally that exact question I just asked you on how to get started all the time. I think that you should just post. And that's like being a fraud to myself saying that because I haven't been doing that either. But if you really want to blow up, like it's like you said, you have to be consistent. You just have to post. So my question is actually from those videos that you shoot, like how much of that footage is just not used, you know?
Oh, endless hard drives, endless hard drives. I've been really trying to go through now, like in June while I've got a bit of time, and like repurpose some of the content because there's some good stuff in there that I just haven't shared. But it's hard to know what people are going to resonate with, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
when you're posting something that you think is really good and then you get just a few views and you feel a bit disheartened, and then other random stuff does really well and you're like, why are people watching that?
I know. I know. It really doesn't make sense. Some stuff that goes viral literally makes no sense to me, but it is what it is. Okay, so right now you have a bunch of projects going on or you're kind of setting up. Can you talk a little bit about your next project and what's happening? Like what are you shooting? Are you working for, which company and where and when?
um well, I'm writing a book. Did I tell you that?
No, you did not tell me that. What?
Okay.
You're writing a book?
Yeah, so it started during lockdown. I started writing actually about filming Quest, so filming my first TV show. Um, and I mean, it's very much a work in progress because I am quite busy. um, but it's kind of morphed into a book more about my time meeting royal families in India now. Um,
Amazing.
and I will be looking for publishers soon, so hit me up. But yeah, during Quest, I actually filmed with quite a lot of different Indian royal families, and it's just like fascinating people. And I realized that I had the opportunity to go behind doors that maybe aren't always open to other people. Um, and then since I decided to write about them, I've made more of a conscious effort to try and meet some more royal families. So I went and stayed in Belgravia Palace in Odisha, which is an East Indian state, in January, and met two of the sisters there, the princesses. Um, so yeah, I'm maybe like kind of 60,000 words through. It probably needs to be about 80. So,
Oh my God, so you're almost done.
well, kind of. There's still a lot to go, but I'm enjoying it. It's something that I'm doing for me. And if other people do get to read it in the future, that'd be great.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I'll be the first one. Um, any other shows you're filming right now?
Well, I'm just finishing off with the latest episode of The Wanderer. So I've got the voiceover for that on Tuesday. which will be the first time that I actually get to see the show as well, which is always.
Where were you there? Where were you shooting?
We were in Turkey, or Turkey, we're meant to be saying.
Turkey.
Turkey.
Um,
But it was beautiful. We went to Bodrum and Cappadocia, which you might have seen, like the hot air balloons and stuff. It was nice. Because I'd never been in a hot air balloon before, actually. That was my first time.
Okay, so there's one more thing that we're not going to talk about too much, but you're working on another project, sort of documentary thing. Do you want to mention anything about it? And if you do, yeah, that anything that you want to divulge there? Because I'm really excited about it. The trailer looks incredible.
Okay, so I have actually sent Alex the trailer already, as he said. Um, I am working on a documentary at the moment. Once again, it was a bit of a lockdown project that just got a bit out of hand, and now it's turned into this whole thing. I will say that it is about a very famous book based in India. That's all I'm going to say. And I've been back and forth to India quite a few times recently, filming in some really, really rural areas, meeting some amazing people, and doing quite a lot of, I suppose, investigative journalism, which is, it's been really exciting. And I'm now starting to pitch that to different channels. So, I mean, if we chat again, maybe in 2 months' time, hopefully I'll be able to share a little bit more
I have
about
to
that.
say, Alex, like that trailer was ridiculous. Like this seems like, again, I don't even know how I can phrase this, but it just seems like a wild thing that happened. Let's just say that. A wild thing that happened over a fairly long period of time. Let's just say that. In India, which was like I was like, is this all real? Like this is insane. Anyways, all right, that's all we'll say about it. Um, off the top of your dome, no pressure, but if you were to give somebody that wants to get started, like I said before, a step-by-step process of how they could get on a TV show, have their own thing, blow up a YouTube channel, what would you say from start to finish?
Oof. Uh, Decide on your brand, your USP, start social media platforms and post consistently, and then be proactive and start reaching out to people, because no one's going to come knocking on your door unless you are the son or daughter of someone famous, I guess. Then they might do. But yeah, reach out to people and tell people why they should work with you.
Okay.
Which I
Anything,
still do. I still do that myself.
what, reach out to people?
Yeah, all the time.
What's your favorite show that you've ever done? You could say a show overall from the experience aspect of it. Like my favorite one, I'll tell you right now, in the Netherlands was my favorite experience. It's probably tied with India, tied with Lakshadweep, but the Netherlands, we had Abby there, who's a he's the funniest dude of all time. Actually, both Abbeys are hilarious. Um, but the Netherlands, for obvious reasons, was just like the most insane place to film, and it was like I'll never forget that in my entire life. And then India was probably tied because we were like in the middle of nowhere and it was so remote, and I was just like in love with the culture and the people, and everything was beautiful. So those are my two favorite experiences. And if I think back on my life, I have this like rule where like if you think back on something in 10 years and you could still remember it vividly, it's probably something pretty special and important.
That's nice. Yeah, that's a nice way
And
of looking at it.
that's something that I'll remember that for the rest of my life. But what's your favorite show that you've shot?
Well, I probably have two as well. So filming in Ladakh, which is kind of Kashmir, Jammu Kashmir, um, for Off the Grid, was incredible. It was like one of the most remote places that I've ever been, and the most beautiful places, and um, it's not the easiest to travel there as well. I suppose there's a lot of paperwork and red tape and army checkpoints and all sorts. So, and like you said, it's now been years ago that I filmed this, and I do remember it really clearly. So I think it was a pretty special experience. But then
That was an
equally,
amazing show. I gotta say, like your show
have
there
you
was
watched it?
incredible. Yeah, I've seen the whole show, of course.
Okay.
I don't watch my stuff. I watch your stuff. I watch other people's stuff. Well, no, not actually not other people's stuff. listen, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut there. But your stuff for sure. Ladakh looked like. Didn't you tell me you got really sick there?
It's just incredibly high altitude. So at
Yeah.
one point, all of us were not feeling great. Like when you're spending that much time at high altitudes, like some of the mountain passes, they kind of say, oh, you know, take a couple of minutes to take a photo and then get back down. But you know, when we're filming, it takes a really long time to do anything, right? So of course we were up there for hours and hours, and people were struggling. And like one of the camera guys, Rahul, had to get oxygen from like a local medical center. Like he was really not having a good time.
Have you ever gotten sick to a point where you had to cancel a shoot day?
Well, when I was in Spain with a certain channel, then I was really, really sick one day. And I remember they said to me, oh, well, you know, you can have like a really big sleep in, do like a half day, and we'll come and get you this evening or whatever. And then I got a call at 9:30 in the morning. So literally like 2 hours later, being like, oh, you need to come in now. And then when I got on location, they said, don't worry, we won't tell them that you did a half day. And I was like, I don't think this counts as a half day. You've given me literally an hour just to stay in the bathroom and be sick.
Were you supposed to get started at like 5 a.m.? I mean,
Yeah,
some call
exactly.
times are 5 a.m., but that's really
But then
early.
also the most recent shoot of The Wanderer in Turkey was also one of my favorites. So I've got two.
Got it. Why was that so amazing?
I like the team. I like the kind of creative vision for the show. And it was a really nice, positive environment, which is always good for work. Um, and then just some of the experiences out there as well. Like we filmed with the wild horses, um, which is kind of a side of Turkey that you maybe don't always see, which I liked a lot.
Okay, you can say one name. You don't have to say Turkey, Turkey every time.
Well,
Like,
Turkey then, I guess.
okay, got it.
It's been drilled into me now. I have to say Turkey.
Let me share one thing with you. I think you'll find this really funny because you know how you basically have no days off when you're shooting anything, like ever. Um, I've shot for a couple of other platforms, which might come out, might not. I don't want to say anything, but anyways, you usually don't get days off, or if you do, it's like one day off and like 2, 3 week shoot. So I'm shooting in Vancouver, okay, and we have one day off, and it's like a half day, as like you said. And I have a bunch of friends that live in Vancouver. Actually, sorry, Whistler. My apologies, Whistler in Canada. And we have one day off. And everybody comes to my hotel room, and we're gonna go out for the night, like not go too hard because we're filming the next morning, whatever. Everyone comes to my hotel room. I'm like, man, go grab you. We need limes. We need a lot of limes because I felt like rum and cokes with limes or like margaritas. We're making something with limes. They end up getting to my room with the limes. I start cutting them up. Alex, I sliced my finger. I sliced my thumb like all the way down the middle, all the way down the middle. And it was like you could open it up like this. And basically, that almost canceled the entire next shoot day because we had to go to the emergency room. We just wouldn't stop bleeding. We had to go to the emergency room because we were cutting up limes for drinks. And then the whole next day, we couldn't shoot because my thumb was just gushing blood. So that's
Just
one
really a hand
story.
behind your back.
Yeah, that's what I did. And I had like it was just so taped up and I had it on the side and stuff like that. Has anything like that ever happened to you? Have you ever gotten injured?
Well, you know, I broke my ankle, right?
I didn't know that when.
Oh, I thought you knew this. I broke my ankle on a shoot with Travel XP.
Where?
In India. It was off the grid northeast. So it was quite funny actually because we were doing zip lining, but I mean we hadn't done the zip line yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had a GoPro with me that was back at the room, and like the team said, "Oh, can we use your GoPro?" So I was like driven back to pick it up, and I was coming back again, and the driver was playing that that Carly Rae Jepsen song "Call Me Maybe" like really really loudly, like
Yeah.
so loud that everyone's kind of turning and staring at the bus, and he really abruptly
It's so
stopped.
random.
No, I know. There is a point to this though. He really, really abruptly stopped the bus just as it said like "call me maybe," and everyone turned to look, and then the door opened, and I basically like fell out and snapped my ankle.
Oh my
Um,
God.
so yeah, incredibly painful.
Did you cancel the shoot or what happened?
No, no, they didn't even take me to hospital. I
No, we
swear,
pushed right on through.
literally, yeah, it was. I was in so much pain.
Wait,
I had to.
did they put a boot on your foot or anything?
Well, they did when I got back to the UK. I literally landed in the UK, went straight to A&E. Obviously, they did an X-ray, and my ankle was broken.
Oh my
So then I had
God.
to have a boot on my foot and physio on it for ages
They were just
afterwards.
like, no, no, you're going to keep shooting.
Well, I'm sure if I'd like pushed it, they would have taken me to the hospital. I'm not saying they refused to, obviously, but I think because I was so embarrassed about falling off this bus, um, I was kind of laughing when it happened, like out of pure embarrassment. And they were like, "Oh, well, you didn't cry, so it can't be broken." I was like, "I don't think that's the gauge for whether an ankle is broken." But
That's
anyway,
wild.
yeah.
That's actually wild. What else do I have to ask you? I feel like I could ask you like a million things, but we've already been doing this for an hour, so I don't know how much time you have. You probably have to go. What else? Okay, question for you. If you, well, I guess you are doing a passion project right now. Um, is there like something that you've wanted to do for a long time other than this project that like, that's your North Star that you want to do that, you've kind of thought about for years, but you haven't gotten around to it or you haven't had the opportunity? Is there something like that that you're going to do in the future? And what are your future plans in general?
I mean, the documentary is something that I've wanted to do for quite a while, like you said. So that is ticking that box a little bit. Um, I'd like to continue doing more travel shows, but I do I would like them to be more organic, if you know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean.
Of course.
I mean, there's obviously limitations with kind of certain shoots depending on how many cameras you've got and whether you're working with tourist boards and things, because there are certain angles that they might like to get, if you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like certain people they want you to chat to and things.
Like they want you to eat a piece of food 8 different times in a row and do
Yeah,
the exact same expression in a row every time after you put the food in your mouth. Oh, oh, okay. Yeah,
exactly. That
yeah.
kind of thing. And I mean that does happen a little bit with every channel. That's not just one channel. It does always happen. But you
Mm-hmm.
know, when you like if you ever watched Anthony Bourdain's shows, I don't think he's there eating something 3 times and going, "Oh, it's amazing." Because you know, if I can just imagine with Bourdain, if he was asked to do it again, he'd be like, "No,
He told him to fuck off. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
exactly, not happening."
did you hear
Um,
about that time where he was in, I think it was, I think it was in Taiwan or something,
okay,
and they told him to go fishing. This is actually where him and the Travel Channel went separate ways because of this incident. Because do you remember this? He
it was
went
because
fishing
it was
and
the
they put,
squid, right? And they were throwing it into the water,
yeah,
like
they were
yeah,
throwing it into the water and they were pretending to catch the squid. And he's like, I don't want to do this. They're like, you have to do it. So like he did it, but then felt so bad about it afterwards that he's like, I'm done with this shit. And he literally left, which
yeah.
was
You can
insane.
see how annoyed he is on that episode because he just gets pissed and angry, and like the voiceover even says, like, I don't remember filming this because I was too drunk. Um,
Is that really what happened? That I don't remember him saying that, but
yeah. He's like, I don't remember like the bit between now and dinner, and I'm sure
so
it was in
he
Italy or something, wasn't it?
I don't know. I can't remember. Maybe I'm thinking Taiwan because I just watched his episode in Taiwan, but I don't know. Um, who have so he's my favorite travel person of all time. I feel like he's most people's favorite travel person of all time, just because everything he does, his voiceovers are so beautiful and like eloquently put everything he talks about. Do you have any influences like that other than him, or maybe if you want to talk a little bit about him, who you kind of look to I don't know, to give you inspiration.
Well, I always liked Long Way Round and Long Way Down with Charlie Bowman and Ewan McGregor. I
Yeah,
don't know if you've
yeah,
seen that.
I've seen it.
So
Yeah.
for those of you that haven't, it's obviously famous actor Ewan McGregor and his friend Charlie Bowman on motorbikes going around the world. And it's just so fun. Like you can kind of see their friendship on screen, which is really lovely, and it's all really natural and organic, like I said, and it's funny. Um, and it's really like off the beaten track travel as well, which I liked. So I was so excited when the new one came out actually during lockdown. That was great. Although I was slightly disappointed because they went across part of Mexico and they didn't actually go on the motorbikes. They put the bikes on the bus. I'm sure they had pressures from the production company saying it wasn't safe, but that's a bit of a shame.
Yeah, being on motorcycles in the backcountry in Mexico, especially with what's going on there right now in the last few years, like that'd be ridiculous. When are you coming to Canada?
I'm possibly coming to Canada in July.
In July. Okay. Well, we'll have to film something or we'll have to do something in person and hang out then. Alex, first of all, any last thoughts? Anything else you want to mention to the people or anything you want to promote?
I don't know. Follow me online, I guess. See
Yeah,
what I'm up
so
to.
if you want to just give your social medias if you can, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, it's just at Alex Outhwaite on YouTube and Instagram.
Awesome. You're the best. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you doing this, and I look forward to meeting you in person, hopefully sometime soon.
Of course. Lovely chatting with you. Thanks for having me.
Talk to you soon.